Well, hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Ashmit Kumar, and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty declined by 1% to hit a two-week low. Financials see a sharp fall in the last hour. Mutual fund industry's assets under management crossed 50 lakh crore rupees for the first time. More than 70 Palestinians killed in Israeli strikes over the last 24 hours, according to the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken set to meet the Saudi Crown Prince amidst fears of a wider war in the region. Blinken also warns that Palestinians should not be forced to leave Gaza. Defense business will grow faster and become larger than core business, says Bharat Forge's Kalyani. May even consider listing when it gets to an inflection point. Expects group's revenue to hit 20,000 crore rupees in 2 years' time. That's an exclusive. 3 weeks to go for the interim budget. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the government is considering hiking allocation under the Farm Income Support Scheme from 6 to 8,000 rupees a year. Allocation under the Free Good Grain Scheme may be increased as well. Supreme Court agrees to hear e-gaming federation's plea challenging GST show-cause notices, but stops short of passing interim orders to protect companies from coercive action. The federation argued that e-gaming companies are facing a 100% tax on the face value of the bet. Government says that unlike income tax, GST is imposed on the gross consideration. Supreme Court sets aside Gujarat government's August 2022 order granting remission to 11 convicts sentenced to life imprisonment in the Bilkis Bano rape case. Asks them to surrender to prison. Rules that Gujarat was not the appropriate government to pass remission orders as the trial was conducted in Maharashtra. The court slams Gujarat government's conduct, says that they usurp Maharashtra's power by exercising their discretion. The High Commissioner of Maldives to India meets officials at the External Affairs Ministry amidst a row over remarks by the Maldivian ministers against Prime Minister Modi. 3 ministers have been suspended for making derogatory remarks. DLF sells luxury residences worth 7,200 crore rupees in a Gurugram project within 3 days of the pre-launch. DLF expects bookings worth 9,000 crore rupees from just 2 projects in Q3. Shares of Boeing tumble after US aviation regulator grounds dozens of 737 MAX 9 jets. The move comes after a piece of plane blew out in the middle of an Alaska Airlines flight on Friday. Oppenheimer shines bright at the Golden Globe Awards, wins 5 awards across categories, including Best Picture, Drama, Best Actor for Cillian Murphy, and Best Director for Nolan. Succession reigns supreme from the TV side, wins its 3rd Globe in the Best Drama Series category. Well, first up, straight at the day's market action, weak global cues played spoil sport on the Lal streets. Sensex and Nifty declined by 1% to end at the lowest level in 2 weeks' time. Sensex lost over 670 points and the Nifty lost 200 points. Financials led the decline with a sharp fall in the last 1 hour. Mid-caps also saw profit booking. Prashant Nair is joining us now with a quick wrap of the day's market action. Prashant.
Well, the start to the second week of 2024 was not all that great. We started, this week with a 200-point cut on the Nifty, the Banks Index, the Bank Nifty correcting over 700 points or so. And some of the best performing sectors of what was a fantastic December and late last year, public sector banks, etc., saw some of the sharpest pullbacks. I'll just start with large caps before I get to the broader market. So stuff which saw the largest pullbacks, UPL was down, SBI down about 2.5%. There was nothing very large, but it was just that overwhelmingly stocks were lower. SBI Life, Divi's Laboratories, LTI, Mindtree, Britannia were some of the stocks from the large cap space which saw some correction. Adani Ports held out 1.5 higher. HCL Tech and Hero MotoCorp were the others which saw some gains, but small gains, 0.5% to 1.5. Market breadth was negative, so about 1,600 stocks lower and just under 1,000 stocks higher. So losses coming through first in names like Bandhan Bank, which was the largest volume-led loser. Hindustan Copper, which had a fantastic run-up, down 5%. Bank of Baroda was down 5%. Cochin Shipyard 5%. Indus Tower 4%. Marico, Godrej Consumer Products, both under pressure. Aarti Industries, there was some negative news flow there. We've been highlighting that. Navin Fluorine, PVR Inox. I could go on, but the fact is, this is just a function of the sharp run-up that most of these stocks saw towards the end of December. Gainers coming through in names like Trident, which was locked up 20%. Sula Vineyards was locked up 20% as well. Positive news flow there. There was Subex Limited, Honasa, which is Mama Earth, were some of the other names which were up about 5 or 6% or so. We made this point towards the end of last year as well that January seasonally is a weak month, especially after a very strong November and December. So I think the market perhaps in some choppy waters. Remember, the US market lost about 1.5% last week while we kind of held on. So maybe catching up to that at the start of this new week. Back to you.
Right, Prashant, thanks a lot for that. Now, just some news coming in. A report by Bloomberg claims that Sony is planning to call off the proposed $10 billion merger with Zee Entertainment. Bloomberg has reported that Sony will send a termination notice by the 20th of January, citing people familiar with the matter. The report claims that Sony does not want Puneet Goenka to lead the merged entity, and that remains a major flashpoint between both sides. Well, here's the big newsmaker this evening. Bharat Forge's Baba Kalyani turns 75 today, and he has no plans to retire. In fact, Kalyani has big expansion plans for the defense business, which he believes will become larger than the core business. Baba Kalyani and his son Amit Kalyani spoke to Shireen Bhan at the Bharat Forge headquarters in Pune. Touting the potential of the defense business, Baba Kalyani said a potential listing could be on the cards when the business hits an inflection point. Bharat Forge is eyeing acquisitions in the defense space and is scouting for companies in India.
There are some businesses that will grow faster than the others, there's no doubt. For example, I think the defense business will go faster than most other verticals. And there might be a time in the next few years where that business will be bigger than our core business. Because, it also uses our core business technologies, like metal forming, forging, machining, etc. So, that's a great possibility. And if that happens, it would be better off as an independent company.
So eventually, plans to take any of these verticals public, listing at some point over the next few years?
See, I foresee that each vertical will be a standalone business. Now, whether they get listed or not depends on their size, scale, and whether their cycles and their businesses require capital or they require the capital markets to get the reflection of the true valuation. So I think going forward, acquisitions will be very selective. They will be in technology domains, but we will make acquisitions in India, because in India, for us to scale up manufacturing capability, bandwidth, technology, and know-how will be the easiest way for us to kickstart our growth. If you look at the acquisitions we have made in the casting business, we acquired 2 foundries with 3 plants in Coimbatore. And we are going to make similar acquisitions because this will give us a head start in growing our business. These are all industries where we see huge opportunity for business to shift, especially from Europe. China +1 will help. And India is going to be competitive in these sectors. So I think these are opportunities that are going to give us tremendous opportunities for growth.
And you can catch the entire conversation with Baba Kalyani and Amit Kalyani at 5:30 p.m. and 10 p.m. right here on CNBC-TV18. About 3 weeks to go for the interim budget. Sources tell us that the government is considering hiking the allocation under the Farmer Income Support Scheme from 6,000 rupees to 8,000 rupees a year. Parikshit Luthra is joining us now with more details. Parikshit, what are your sources telling you?
Well, the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme was announced by the interim finance minister Piyush Goyal way back in 2019, and that was also in the interim budget. And now we believe that the government has been receiving proposals to increase this allocation per farmer from 6,000 rupees per year to 8,000 or 10,000. So this is an option on the table which is being explored. At the same time, there is a proposal to extend the allocation or expand the PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana for 80,000 crore people across the country. So let's see what happens on that front, whether there is any kind of expansion allocation on the PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana as well. But largely we're hearing that the Prime Minister has been emphasizing on 4 categories of the Indian population: poor, youth, women and farmers. And the budget also could support these 4 groups with incentives and schemes for the future. We're also hearing that the government is considering a set of measures to support the MSMEs across the country, as they're a generator of employment, one of the strong backbones of the Indian economy as well. Therefore, there could be a scheme in the budget for MSMEs, but all these are proposals which are being considered, options which are being considered. Final decision is awaited.
Right, Parikshit, thanks a lot for that. Let's move ahead now. E-commerce giant Flipkart will reduce its workforce by 5 to 7%. According to a report by the Economic Times, the performance-based workforce reduction initiative is expected to be completed by March and April of this year. The Walmart-owned firm has carried out the same practice over the last 2 appraisal cycles as well. In some court action now, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear the e-gaming Federation's application challenging GST show cause notices. However, the Apex Court has stopped short of passing interim orders to protect companies from coercive action. The Federation has argued that e-gaming companies are facing 100% tax on the face value of the bet. The government, meanwhile, has said that unlike income tax, GST is imposed on the gross consideration. And while DLF has sold luxury residences worth 7,200 crore rupees in a Gurugram project within 3 days of the pre-launch. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, DLF's joint managing director, Akash Ori, has said that he expects bookings worth 9,000 crore rupees from just 2 projects in the 3rd quarter.
Quarter 1 and 2 have been about 2,200. This quarter will be, say, with this particular thing and the 2 launches, Panchkula as well as a commercial launch in Gurgaon, will take us to about 9,000 odd. NRI has just been about 20% of this entire sales, so 80% has still come from the rest of the country. I mean, primarily the NCR and the rest of the country. Like the 5-10 lakh rupee booking amounts, this time the booking amounts have been 50 lakh rupees, no bulk bookings, 1 apartment to a family, and so on and so forth. So basically, the point I'm trying to make is these are retails, mostly people looking at...
From the aviation to the auto space, India's auto sales in December dipped by over 30% year-on-year, according to the Federation of Automobile Dealers Association, or FADA. However, the Dealers Association is hopeful of a recovery in the January to March quarter. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, FADA President Manish Raj Singhania said that he expects the industry to continue its trend of reporting strong sales in the last quarter of the fiscal.
The last quarter, that is of the financial year, that is the Q4, that ends up pretty well for the auto industry, and it is one of the brightest quarter for the auto industry. So overall, if the supplies are good, and looking at the new model launches that are coming up for the auto industry, both in two-wheeler as well as passenger vehicle space, and the continued excitement of SUV segment, we are looking at a positive growth of single digit across various segments. And I think PV as well as two-wheeler will continue to perform well in the last quarter of this financial year.
Well, staying with the auto space, Mercedes-Benz has kicked off its 30th year of operations in India with the launch of the new GLS luxury SUV. The latest edition of the car comes in 2 variants priced at over 1.3 crore rupees. The German luxury auto major has also said that it will invest 200 crore rupees in India and launch over 12 products in 2024. Well, with that, it's time now for a very short break. But coming up, the High Commissioner of Maldives to India meets officials at the External Affairs Ministry amidst a row over remarks made by Maldivian ministers against Prime Minister Modi. 3 ministers have already been suspended for making derogatory remarks. Details when we come back. Welcome back. Now, more than 70 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes over the last 24 hours, according to the Hamas-run Health Ministry in Gaza. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is on his 4th tour to the Middle East since the war broke out on October 7th. He has warned that Palestinians must be able to return home as soon as conditions allow and must not be pressed to leave Gaza. Blinken is set to meet Saudi Prince today and will visit Israel tomorrow. Well, back home, the Supreme Court has quashed the Gujarat government's August 2022 order that granted the premature release of 11 men convicted in the Bilkis Bano rape case. The court ruled that Gujarat was not the appropriate government to pass remission orders as the trial was done in Maharashtra. The court also criticized the Gujarat government's conduct and said that the state usurped Maharashtra's power by exercising its own discretion. The Supreme Court has asked the convicts to surrender in prison within 2 weeks' time. And diplomatic tensions between India and Maldives have been strained further on the back of 3 deputy Maldivian ministers passing derogatory remarks against Prime Minister Modi, criticizing his visit to Lakshadweep on social media. Now, the 3 ministers have now been suspended and their posts deleted. Last week, the Prime Minister, in a post referring to his Lakshadweep visit, highlighted the stunning beauty of the islands. While there was no reference to Maldives in his post, social media users in the island nation saw the post as a threat to their tourism. Many Indian social media users too interpreted the post to be an opportunity to pit Lakshadweep against Maldives. The High Commissioner of Maldives to India met officials at the External Affairs Ministry amidst the row. Ties between the two nations have been strained since Mohammad Moizu's India Out campaign became a decisive factor in his victory in the presidential elections. Parishat Luthra joining us now with more details. Parishat, what are the big takeaways here as this row develops between these two countries?
Well, clearly the relations between two countries are worsening. We have seen a strong pivot towards China as far as Maldives go, and that began with the newly elected president Muizu asking for India to recall all its troops, saying that if India continues to maintain presence of its troops on Maldivian soil, it will go against the Maldives constitution. So that was the first blow as far as the India-Maldives relationship goes. Second, very recently, when the Prime Minister visited Lakshadweep in a bid to promote tourism in the region, there were some very strong and objectionable remarks that came from 3 or 4 Maldivian leaders, and 3 of them being deputy ministers. Those objectionable remarks met with very strong concerns and objections and protests from the Indian government. The Maldives ambassador to India was summoned by the Ministry of External Affairs at around 9 a.m. this morning. A strong protest was lodged. We know that those 3 deputy ministers have been suspended, but this is something that will become a sore point in the relations, at least for the next few months. On the Maldivian side, the Indian High Commissioner to Maldives were also summoned to explain the current issues in the relationship. The Indian side said that this was a pre-decided meeting. At the same time, we know that President Muizu is visiting Beijing. This is his first overseas trip, and it happens to be to China and not to India. This is also being seen as a departure from Maldives' India-first policy because there is a lot of emphasis being paid by President Muizu to the relationship with China over India.
Right, Parishat, thanks a lot for that. Let's shift focus now. Oppenheimer shown at last night's Golden Globe Awards. The biopic bagged 5 awards, winning including the award for Best Motion Picture Drama. The movie's lead actor, Cillian Murphy, and director Christopher Nolan won their first ever Golden Globe on the television front as well. Succession reigns supreme, with the series clinching 5 awards, including the Best TV Series title.
The tragedy and what drew me to the story is that certainly in the later part of his story, post-World War II, post-Trinity, he always...
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates to follow. Continue watching CNBC TV18 right here on the other side.